long as you're going to do it the easy way. I want to walk. I'm trying to sleep. There was enough for 40, so there's just 20. You want me to go ahead? And I'm doing green schools. I vote that you use the green tab. Are you ready for me to? I don't have a green tab. Yes, you guys see it. Right? I'm kidding. You can use whatever color you want. Not yet. I have an order. I want them to receive it. I'm going to pass them out at the appropriate time. I am. You have to wait for information. I know my students by title list. They ask me questions. Ignoring breaks at this point, so if anyone feels like they just absolutely have to get up and walk around or get coffee or go to the bathroom.
And also environmental science class at NEO. Mel has, her background, she has a bachelor's in both biology and geology, and she has a master's in water resources science, which I think is excellent. We'll keep that in mind, Rebecca. Mel's also on our, what do you call it, Citizens Advisory Board for our new fish project, Mercury Study. So we're excited about that. But something else about Mel that everybody may not know, she makes compost at home. She has an organic garden and 2 rain barrels. And also she's NEO's chair for the Going Green Committee.
By default, because nobody else works it. You never say that. They made me do it. She never says that. All right, I'm going to be a rebel and stand on this side of the room so you guys can see the slides over there. Plus, the heat is here for hands, whoever's presenting next. It's nice and warm. I'm going to talk about green schools. Green schools are not the color green of the school, but they are schools that have specific goals in mind. Basically, you can read through those yourselves. One of the top priorities is to make sure that their school is functioning in a sustainable way and to teach about sustainable development and sustainable ways to their students. Okay? They create an environment free of toxic substances. They do things like providing nutritional food on campus. And more schools are doing this. You see in the news that schools are contemplating taking out their pop and vending machines in their schools to try to combat childhood obesity. But in doing such, they are also being healthier for the environment because we're taking away all of that processed food that has to consume so many resources to get it to the form where we can consume it, and going back to things that consume a lot less resources. I saw on the news something interesting. I can't remember where. It was a college in Minnesota, either Mankato or St. Cloud. I can't remember which one. But they had this cool idea, where you have out with your pop machine and your water and all the juices and things they might offer. They had the clear containers where you can dispense water, but they were putting fresh fruit in there to flavor them naturally without having to add a bunch of sweeteners or anything else to it. And that was something that would fit into this. It was kind of a cool thing. Another aspect of the green schools is green construction or remodeling. I'm not concentrating on those because Thomas is going to focus on that next. So, what I want to talk about is something called sustainability, which you've probably heard this word before, but the basic concept is that the current generations can meet their needs but still provide resources available for future generations to meet their needs, ideally at a higher standard of living than we have now. Okay? What are some aspects that would fit into sustainability that you can think of?
Energy use,
Okay? What about energy use?
renewable resources,
Okay? Alternative fuels rather than non-renewable ones. What's another aspect that you can do?
conservation.
Conservation is a huge key of sustainability. Not just of energy, of water, and everything else. Can't think of any others.
Land use.
Okay. One of which we just talked about earlier, recycling. The concept of reduce, reuse, recycle. One of the things I passed out gave you some information on that. Give you some tips that you might not have thought of before. These are things that you can easily translate to anyone that you're talking to. It can be nice and easy steps. At the very end, I also have one on water conservation that I'll hand out to you that I'm not really going to talk about, but it has some tips on how you personally can make some efforts to conserve water, which helps the environment, but it also helps what most people are more concerned with for their pocketbook. Okay? Part of the process of reducing is to reduce the amount of waste that you consume. It might be consuming less materials or finding the same foods or materials you use, but finding ones that use less packaging. How many of you have ever bought juice in the little juice boxes for kids? How much packaging is in buying those? Because they have to wrap each individual one, plus the straw, plus they wrap the straw, and then they wrap the whole thing in cellophane. Wouldn't it consume less weight, or less? You'd have less waste if you just bought, the concentrated stuff, or bought a bigger container of it. But our society has gotten to where we want things as to be so convenient that we will tend to provide a lot more waste than we need to.
But you would probably put that larger container into a styrofoam cup or a plastic cup or paper cup, which would still be just waste.
I don't know.
Would still be just.
Oh, I'm thinking of things at home. You buy these things at home and do the same thing. If you're out someplace, it's not as practical, but if you're doing these things at home, that's something that can easily be, little steps that can easily be changed. You can reuse or repurpose an item when you're finished with it. How many of you have seen those little topsy-turvy tomato plants? Where you can grow them upside down. Well, here I have a reuse. 2-liter Coke bottles turned upside down. And it serves the same purpose. Okay, and recycling. I gave you some handouts, but I want to do one little thing here before we get to that. I'm going to say groups of 3 or 4, but groups of 2, as I continue talking in essence of time, the people next to you, I have a little sheet that some of you have probably seen before because it was given out to our group conference from the Department of Environmental Quality of how long litter lasts. And there are white spaces in here because I wiped out the answers. I want to see if you can guess how long it takes for these materials to break down. So in groups of, say, 2, person next to you or so, see if you can, where's your out? Good. I don't have any answers. No, I have enough. I don't remember if this is the next slide. As you kind of look through those, I have a... So if all these materials went into a landfill kind of like this, how many years would it take for those materials to break down? No, individual. Some of them are quicker than others.
Plastic.
Some of these you might have thought of before, some of them you might not have.
Somewhere that built, maybe one to take it there long.
Leather would take a while.
And motorcycles are tires.
Oh, really? Wow.
There's a place
You don't have to fill them all in, by the way. I'll show you the answers here in a little while. Alright, now that you've had a little bit of time to kind of guess on a few, or read some of them, a landfill is where we put our waste, right? Okay, the lifespan of a landfill varies depending on how much material goes in it, what types of materials they are, how big it was constructed in the first place, what size the population is that's feeding that. I think on average that lasts 20 to 50 years. Typical landfill has a lining at the bottom, a collection area for the liquids that run through, and then these little mounds are places where they actively put the material, and then when it reaches a certain capacity, they cover that up with dirt and move to a different spot. So it can begin breaking down. Okay, here's none of you have ever seen a landfill, a little picture of it. What do you think is the highest percentage of stuff that ends up in a landfill? Okay, I've got votes for plastic. Anyone else?
What are we voting on? We're still looking at ours.
Yeah, but I told you you didn't have to do them all. What is the highest percentage of material, largest percentage of material that ends up in a landfill? Diapers. I don't think that's one of the... You're just guessing. I've got vote for plastic over here. Okay, here's a pie chart. What is it? Think about how much paper is generated, especially if you're an educational institution or part of a government. We have paper for everything. Okay? Paper's really high. What about, and we have plastics, yard trimmings, food scraps. Okay, which of those degrade naturally? Food scraps, yard trimmings. Paper can, and it cannot. Depends on what kind of paper you have and if it has any of those plastic slip coatings like magazines or those things like that that take a little bit longer. Of these things here that don't degrade naturally, how much of it is recyclable? We can really recycle paper, right? Plastics. How much can we reduce from a landfill just by recycling some of these things? This little activity that I gave you, I do in my environmental science class. I don't hand them out and let them write them down, although I like this, so I think I might do that from now on. But I kind of play a guessing game with them, and I'll name something, and they try to guess how long it lasts. And part of the class, I have my students every Wednesday in lab go around, and each of them is assigned a building, and the little bins for the bottle and the cans, they take the trash bag out, and they take it to a drop-off site. So one of the things I try to teach them is that every single person, every choice every person makes has an impact on the environment, whether positive or negative, or whether you realize it or not. And so for one of the goals, I have a worksheet, if any of you want, where it lists a bunch of criteria or activities, and they have to name a positive and a negative impact that they do to that environment. It causes them to think about what their choices are. Okay, and then I give them this, which I went through, and here are the answers. If you want to know some of them. The biodegradable stuff takes a few weeks. I forgot I have a pointer in my hand. Banana peel, orange peel, those kind of things. A wool sock, about a year. How many of you smoke or know someone who smokes? 10 years for a cigarette butt. Why is that? I'm assuming it has to do with all the chemicals that are in it.
It's actually the
Filter in it?
It's made of
Ah. looks like paper, right? And so it's going to degrade quickly, but it takes 10 years for each and every one of those, which I found quite interesting. Here's a traffic ticket. I don't know how many people would throw a traffic ticket away, but they end up there. Car tires. Car tires are undetermined. That means we don't know. And in the past, what they used to do with them is dump them in the ocean. Out of sight, out of mind. Okay? This, I will provide a link for you. You can go print this yourself and look at it, which has all the answers, instead of writing them all down.
I wanted the answer.
All right. And I already stated this part of it. Another thing that can be looked at in reference to how much waste is generated, how much people should recycle, is something called an ecological footprint. Basically, it is how many Earths would the world need, how many Earths would we need if every single person on the planet lived the lifestyle that you live? And I have a little quiz. This is one I found, again, from the Department of Environmental Quality website. However, the front page that tells some information about it has a website on it that is a more in-depth version, and that's an assignment I give to my students. And I highly suggest checking that one out. But the one here is something that you could do in a classroom because it's something that can be filled out on paper. You don't have to complete it right now, it's just an idea. But going through and talking about sustainable areas, the connectedness that we've been talking about today, where you can do it culturally, you can do it scientifically with a little exercise like this, or with the ecological footprint, have the students do it in class, or the website might be a really cool thing to get the parents involved in, to send it as an assignment home, to have the parents help the child do it. Because it asks a lot of things like the square footage of your house, if you have a garden, your square footage of your garden, how much land your yard and your house occupy, things that younger children are not going to know. But if you involve the parents in it, you're not only reaching the generation of the kids, you're reaching the generation of their parents, which it's not too late for us to learn things either. And you can complete that if you want to. In essence of time, probably later. Oops, back up. The website that I use says that the U.S. average is between 5 and 6 Earths. For if every, what? No, yeah, do that later. Time.
On our list for time.
Oh.
For how many Earths?
5 to 6 Earths if every person on the planet lived the average American lifestyle. We would need 5 to 6 Earths. How many of you have seen the movie WALL-E?
Yes.
Yes.
Wally?
If you have not seen that movie, watch that movie. Because a lot of people think of, they kind of have an idea that, oh, well, we need to conserve water, we need to conserve energy, we need to watch how much resources we consume. But they don't think about the flip side as to where's all that waste going to go. And the more and more people you end up on the earth, it's going to become a huge concern. Is that,
I was acknowledging I had seen all.
oh, excited. Oh. And I tell my students the same thing. If you haven't seen that movie, go watch it. It's kind of an eye-opening, especially when they start looking at the earth and looking at how tall these piles of trash are, skyscraper-sized piles. Everywhere on the whole planet is made of nothing but those. It's not going to get to that extreme, but it makes you think about, oh, well, where in the world is all our waste going to go? How much paper do we generate that ends up in the landfill that doesn't have to? All right, another part of the Green Schools, I know that you guys did the project. They have a Green Schools portion of their curriculum. And you can go to their website, and they have 3 main components to it. They have professional development, investigations that focuses on the 5 main areas that are listed up there, that teaches students how to investigate information, or how to investigate problems related to these 5 areas, and service learning component to it, which is another hot topic. I have to apologize, I have never been teaching, I have never taught in a public school So I'm not sure the process of all having to go through and do the lesson plans and find the curriculum and all of that information. However, this is a really good site that has some of the curriculum. If you click on the link for the Green Schools, it has a tab in there that says curriculum. And you can even look at, right on their website, a few of the ideas for activities and things like that. And I looked up a whole bunch of other websites that has some environmental curriculum or sample lesson plans that are downloadable and free. If you want that information, I'll collect your email address and I can email you the file. Okay? And these fact sheets that I've got, and I'm sending more around in a minute, all came from the Department of Environmental Quality website that you can download free. And you can develop activities based on these. I gave you a few for recycling. There's this other sheet. You can make a little game out of it. How you make that meet the state standards and that sort of thing, I have no clues about. You guys are the experts on that part of it. All right, and I have one of these is environmental education resources. It's the next one I'm going to pass around. So they have put together a list of some places for environmental education.
Let you know, say that I initiated my kids to bring in 2 pieces of trash they picked up on the ground during the week. So that's 14 pieces of trash that we recycle.
There you go.
We should,
I have students tell me that just from the act of me making them go around and pick up the recycling around campus, some of them, a lot of them, keep doing it, and then some of them even go to the extent that they bring stuff from home because they've never realized the impact that it can have. I passed around. Those are just a list of ideas. They aren't actual curriculum. Another idea that is really easy to keep doing little bits along the way is, Gina mentioned I do composting. You can have a little tiny, little clear plastic container that you can compost your snacks or something from your classroom in, that you just put fresh stuff and I don't think I passed it out, but one of the links that I can give you has a link for creating a simple little worm bank. And if it's clear, then you can see all the innards of what's going on inside, the worms moving around and everything. Those are nice and easy. The kids can dig their hands in there, physically touch the soil and see what's going on. Another one that I gave you, I told you before, was water conservation. It's a nice handout to be able to use for just tips on reducing the amount of water you use in the bathroom, in the kitchen, or outdoors, the 3 major places you use them. Simple things that kids can get excited about, like shutting the water off while you're brushing your teeth. That adds up over the course of a lifetime. When you brush your teeth a couple times a day. Yes, I do. Oh, no, I thought you could shut it off. Some people do. I've got students that tell me that when I have them do that assignment where they're listing their positive and negative impacts, some of them tell me they leave the water on when they're brushing their teeth, or they take 20-minute showers or more.
And I brush my teeth in the shower.
Yeah, but see, that saves, right? Anyway, I will pass around one of these. If you want the email that I can send you with the additional links for resources and everything, I was told that there were a lot of, from last time, there were a lot of forestry students. So I figured if we don't have very many teachers, I'll just be making a bunch of trees. Killing a bunch of trees to pass out even more paper. I'll just email the link and then here, most of you are education today.
And we can put that on the website.
Yeah, I can upload that too. I looked at several things. I don't know a lot about the curriculum, but I found several of them, one of which is the Project Learning Tree site. It's on there. Where I got a lot of these fact sheets are on there. And there's all kinds of them that can be used to, they had some that were like crossword puzzles and things like that, that would be something kind of easy to do for kids to be able to learn that material and still kind of make a game out of it, like they're having fun with it at the same time. And I think that was all. Yay!
Does anybody have any questions for Mel?
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Very informative, isn't it?
You want to do how it's
in our area, so we'll really appreciate it. And Thomas is enrolled in the training. That's and so like.
I can tell you right. And Paul did discussing aspects of green building, sustainability, recycling, all of that. I'm supposed to cover building. But first of all, let me say that I appreciate the opportunity to be here. And I'd also like to say to the educators, you are very special people. You have been ordained with a mission to provide our children